Hello, and thank you for joining. My name is Khaled Fattal, and I'm going to tell you why I am bringing this podcast to your attention today. Many of you may not know me or know where I went to university, but I am a University of Southern California graduate. USC is my family. Many of you may know this, but those who don't. I have now lost confidence in the leadership of Dr. Folt and in the leadership of you, Mr. Guzman, and I'm hereby asking for both of your resignations. Why I'm bringing this to your attention is for the following reason, and let me jump straight in. Today, the news wires are going crazy about a story, the Los Angeles Times, and its title is Citing Safety Concerns, USC cancels pro-Palestinian valedictorian's graduation speech. Time magazine went as far as calling it USC faces backlash over alleged censorship of pro-Palestinian valedictorian speech. So let me put it in perspective what seemed to have happened. A young lady by the name of Asna Tabassum is graduating as a senior from USC this May, and she already was on the speaker's schedule to deliver, and she was selected as a valedictorian speaker, a traditional slot placed for the USC graduation event. And for some reason, some off-campus groups started criticizing that choice. And as a result, USC decided to pull her from the speakers list, citing security concerns. I've never heard so much bullshit in my freaking life. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me just put it in the proper context. When President Folt was inaugurated 4 or 5 years ago, I can't remember the exact time, I was there. I personally was talking to her. I've met her a few times as well since then. I recall saying the following to her. This is a private conversation, but I'm going to go public what I said. I said to President Folt the following. I said to her, I have been deprived of my birth country because of situations. So for decades, USC has been my family. And while presidents come and presidents go, some do a good job, some do a horrible job, like previous President Nikias. I said to her, if you do a good job, hopefully a great job, you're going to have the best supporter you can ever have. But I was also implying when you do a really poor job, you're not going to have a supporter here. And there have been numerous events that have taken place under her leadership that's made me question whether supporting her, still to support her, is of any relevance. But to be honest with you, I thought, fine, time, tough decisions. This one is literally the straw that's going to break this camel's back. Let me also invoke the provost at USC, who was brought by President Folt, Provost Andrew Guzman, because he's at the center of that decision, and and here's where it's time to call bullshit, and in times of serious crisis, and we are in unprecedented times. And everything we stand for is being challenged, whether it's freedom of speech, where our importance, where our values. Those of us who know better and who stay silent are as complicit as those who support horrors. So I cannot stay silent. I'm going to speak up. And here's what I think. First of all, the reason that it was stated by USC officially, and I'm going to quote Provost Guzman, about this is bullshit. Yes, I'm calling it out. It's bullshit. The LA Times quotes, and let me share with you what the LA Times said, ladies and gentlemen, so at least you know what I'm saying. And I'm reading now from the LA Times, and you will have the link there in my podcast. In an interview, Guzman said the university has been in close contact with the student and would provide her support. Very kind of him. He added that we weren't seeking her opinion on the ban. Fascinating. So you made the decision. Okay. I wonder who twisted your arm and which special interest has threatened to cut funding, Mr. Guzman. We know how USC works, and I know how money works at USC. So you can't bullshit a bullshitter. And then the LA Times says the following, and I'm quoting, this is in quotation. This is a security decision, he said. This is not about the identity of the speaker. It's not about the things the valedictorian has said in the past. We have to put our top priority ensuring the campus and community is safe. So let me zero in on the previous sentence. It's not about the things the valedictorian has said in the past. Mr. Guzman, what is it that the valedictorian said in the past? Yeah, I'm asking you. What is it that she said in the past that you seem to imply that would have justified taking her out? But it's not that. It's the security. Mr. Guzman, some of my best friends are Jews, by the way. This is not about Jews, Christians, or Muslims, but it's about time, the definition that most Americans fall victims to, the definitions of what anti-Semitism is, needs to be exposed. Most organizations in the United States, the UK as well, uses a definition. This is for you, the general public. Most organizations and governments as well in the West use the definition of anti-Semitism as any criticism that includes, by the way, criticism of the state of Israel. Yes. When media outlets talk about somebody was being anti-Semitic, they are including in that person who they are claiming to be anti-Semitic seems to perhaps have criticized the state of Israel or criticized some government official in the state of Israel. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to debate with anybody, but here's the thing. To the general public, my dear friends, please be aware. There's a difference between anti-Semitism, which is the hatred of people of the Jewish faith, which must be fought. It must be fought just like Islamophobia is fought or any other hate for anybody because they belong to a particular religious group. However, the criticism of a head of nation, a political party, a political group is legitimate free speech. So if the state of Israel is committing genocide or is killing children, babies, and innocent civilians, and some Tom, Dick, or Harry wants to criticize them, that is not anti-Semitism, my dear friends. This is legitimate free speech to call out, period. Now, it's that same convoluted, false anti-Semitism label that has been a serious problem and has done a huge disservice for people of the Jewish faith who truly feel unsafe and need to be better protected because they need to be better protected. And we can't be protecting them if we're using false labels that encompass things that don't belong. Criticizing the state of Israel, my dear friends, is legitimate. If you want to boycott me because I'm doing that, go right ahead. But that's my free speech. This is my constitutional right. Is that clear? Therefore, today, the reason that Mr. Guzman, Dr. Guzman, let me show you some respect, at least for your title. To say that the decision, this is a security decision. This is not about the identity of the speaker. It's not about the things the valedictorian has said in the past. Would you please explain to us what did she say that in the past that would have been the cause for her to be pulled out? And secondly, what you're confirming here is the pressure from those who claim she has actually whatever has caused a security risk and why you are pulling her out. So in other words, you're pulling her out, according to your statement, because her presence presents a security risk because somebody has threatened. Where's law enforcement? Where is law enforcement? I thought we are in the United States of America, that we don't get held hostage. Who's holding you hostage? Who threatened you? Who threatened the university that they will do something? And why isn't law enforcement investigating? FBI, Los Angeles Police Department. My good friend Errol Southers, he is a pillar in that space. Ask him to investigate. I know he was also part of the committee that rendered the decision. The truth of the matter here is the University of Southern California has hosted former presidents, very important dignitaries, and it was able to ensure security. So please don't use that as an excuse. And at which point do we assess that security is the reason why we shut down free speech? The one thing I'm not going to accept is some people have actually started calling for USC to reinstate her. No, don't reinstate her. I am not asking or demanding to reinstate her. I tell you what I'm asking. I have now lost confidence in the leadership of Dr. Folt and in the leadership of you, Mr. Guzman, and I'm hereby asking for both of your resignations. Now, you might not think I'm important enough. That's fine, but I'm going to remind you of one thing. The one thing I know about the University of Southern California here is it runs away from facing trouble and problems. Dr. Folt authorized the payment of almost $1 billion to make a certain problem go away only a couple of years ago. So it does not get talked about. We were at the forefront of admission scandals under your watch, Dr. Folt. So this one is the straw that broke the camel's back. Okay? So not only am I asking for your resignation, yours and Mr. Guzman, because I want to protect my family. The university that educated me, the university where it gave me some amazing insights back in the 80s, the professors who I studied under, who became leaders in their own space. One of them is Dr. Arthur Laffer, the Laffer curve. How proud is USC of him having been one of the pillars at USC? He was my professor at USC while he was creating Reaganomics. And he was the person who wrote the foreword for my book, Survivability. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am not speaking here in the abstract. It's about time we step up and live up to the values that we as Americans profess to the world. Enough bullshit. I have seen what happened to some of the universities on the East Coast and what happened to their presidents and how they, to try and open free speech, they ended up getting, come on. This has pressure written all over it from money pressure. And don't get me started so that I start putting my investigative hat on. Because if I do and I start digging, God knows what I will find out. So I will leave it at that. Last reminder, if you truly believe this is a storm in a teacup, let me remind you of this. As a response to our President Biden's complicity in the genocide that was brought, which South Africa brought a case against the state of Israel for the Gaza genocide it's committing back in the Holy Land, President Biden continued to supply Israel with weapons to kill civilians. A country that actually prides itself with targeted assassination, with precision bombs, is actually being supplied with 2,000 bunk busters. These are only just level up entire neighborhoods. And that's exactly what's been happening. If you recall, in the primaries, more than 100,000 Democrat voters filled in sheets when they were voting in the primaries, uncommitted. This is the time where we're going to be held accountable. And this is not only our political system, but our educational system. A university that is willing to do and conclude a decision like what has been decided has categorically proved to me that it is not creating future leaders. It's creating future ring kissers. And something else I must add as a reminder about the power what individuals can do. In the last 6 months, we have actually been promoting the ethos of people voting on daily basis in the way they consume. Yes, might sound novel, but it ain't. People, whether they live in democracies or dictatorships, people have the power to vote on daily basis, ladies and gentlemen, in the way they consume products and services and in the way they boycott products and services based on the values they uphold, based on the ethos, on the sense of justice, of right and wrong. And let me share with you, this has been so significantly impactful. I'm going to give you an example. And if you don't want to believe what I'm sharing with you, go and Google it yourself. Go search it yourself. Starbucks, a historic supporter of Israel and who continued to support the Israeli defense and the military in the last 6 months, has been targeted by consumers, citizens all over the world who have chosen to boycott its product as their way of stating their displeasure and disagreement with its position. As a result, it's only a few weeks ago this came out. The CEO of Starbucks comes out and says that such boycott on a global scale has had direct impact on the profitability of the company. We're talking serious percentages that have actually dropped in terms of sales. I'm not going to quote them, so you go and find out for yourself. Plus, go find out how much in percentage the share value of Starbucks has dropped. My dear friends, my dear President Folt, my dear Mr. Guzman, USC being probably the #1 international university in the United States. International meaning it has been one of the universities that has the most foreign students. What would happen to USC if students and their parents and their respective governments start voting on daily basis and say, we're no longer going to come to USC? Exactly. So I'm going to give you a reminder. The power of people, the power of authenticity, the power of sincerity, people stepping up and saying, this is not something we agree with, and using economics to remind institutions that while they are succumbing to the pressure groups that traditionally support them and fund them and make them act like good boys, there are other groups that are reminding what they need to stand up to and the values they need to uphold, especially the values they proclaim to be teaching and the values they are creating future leaders under. So, my dear friends, don't underestimate the power of voting on a daily basis. Once again, I'm calling for President Folt and Mr. Guzman to step down because they no longer have my confidence. I hope many of you will follow my call and also start calling for President Folt and Dr. Guzman's resignation with immediate effect. University of Southern California could do a lot better under different leadership than this leadership. And until then, I bid you farewell and take care.